So our next speaker is an architect and the Director of Transportation Design for the Vancouver office of Perkins+Will. His passion is to create buildings that are more than just places to wait for buses and trains, but rather become landmarks and multi-use community hubs that improve the urban environment. Not only is he currently shaping Metro Vancouver's transit scene with his work on 2 stations for the upcoming Evergreen line, but he's also been involved in exporting the firm's transit knowledge internationally. He is currently leading the architectural design of the metro and rapid bus transit system in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which when complete will be the largest transit project in the world. Please welcome Jeff Doble.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, transit design. So just to make sure, I'm going to try not to repeat these words on every slide, but to make sure everyone here is having as much fun hearing them as I am saying them. We'll have everyone up the stairs have a drink when they hear the word transit. Everyone down low here have a drink when they hear design. Okay, here we go. A couple of slides on my life leading up to architecture. I grew up building houses with my father, who's a custom home builder. That's me in the hard hat, not in the mustache there. Love building, and I still do, but it was my high school art teacher who suggested architecture as a career when she found out my summer job as a carpenter. And I didn't only enjoy designing and building buildings, but also had an interest in urban design and landscape architecture. This is my neighbor Joey and I in my backyard sandbox, building our first sandbox city. And in my professional career lately, I've been focusing on transit design or transit station design, and it's perhaps because it's a building type that is so heavily influenced by urban design and landscape architecture. To give you an example of what I'm talking about is, this is Ottawa's light rail transit project, and when we were working on the design for the 13 stations, you can see that each station needs to respond to different urban and suburban conditions, and some are located on greenfield sites, and they'll be the first building to be built on that site, and so they inform the urban design and development that's going to take place in the future. One example of that is the Bayview station here, where we worked with the city planners through a design charrette process to strategically locate that station so it became a link between a quadrant of development sites that were once severed by a commuter rail line. Another exciting aspect of transit design for me is that this shift in attitude where stations were once seen as places of low land value and crime, where today they're one of the main factors in high real estate value, as we can attest to in Vancouver here. And I think it was Bob Rennie who changed the real estate motto in Vancouver from location, location, location to transit, transit, transit. And we are the envy of many North American cities for our density and our urban design and transit-oriented development. We've got stations that form the hub of a lot of new developments here around them. But to get to the theme of the night and talk about exporting our transit design and urban design around the world, the story is pretty simple. Vancouver rocks and the world wants what we have. We've got some great stations in the city designed by some of the city's best architects. This is Brentwood Station, which was before my time at Perkins+Will, but to this day is one of my favorite projects in the firm and one that I aspire to every time we start a new transit project. So as we continue to develop our transit practice locally with work on the Canada Line, now Evergreen Line, we have international opportunities that continue to arise, some not so far away as Seattle, Ottawa, Toronto, and others on the other side of the world in China and Saudi Arabia. So I want to spend the next 3 minutes telling you about my experiences in Riyadh. In 2004, I was part of the team to work on the prototype station for these 2 metro lines, and little did we know that by 2013 we would have touched nearly every square kilometer of the city with our station designs for the metro and the bus systems in the city, which will be one of the largest transit projects in the world to date. So another important principle for designing stations here, especially for Riyadh, they're kind of universal transit principles that we apply to every station design. But in Riyadh, in order to convince an oil-rich population to get out of their vehicles and into mass transit, the comfort and convenient and high-quality experience of the system was the most important thing to achieve. And another challenge we face when doing work in other parts of the world is understanding and appreciating the environment and culture locally. And in the middle of the desert with 45-degree temperatures in the summer, protection from the sun is one of the most important characteristics of the local building vernacular. So that's exactly where we started our prototype design. This is a section through the station where you can see a large canopy that supports photovoltaic panels. These panels will protect the passengers below and provide shade while also harnessing the sun's energy. And again, for an oil-rich country to latch onto this idea of photovoltaics was pretty amazing. Over 80 stations, it'll be one of the largest photovoltaic arrays in the world. From there, we moved into the urban design of some of the transit corridors. This is Aloya Street, probably the city's Champs-Élysées, if you could call it that. And so we worked on the development of the transit nodes and just improving the overall public realm and making it much more pedestrian friendly. About a year ago, the project ballooned from 2 lines to 6 lines, and we worked on the transfer station design for every intersection of those lines. And these became more than very complex stations. They were community hubs and civic buildings that provided connections between development sites around the stations. Of the 8 transfer stations, 3 were identified as competition sites where architects from around the world were invited to compete for the designs. It was an exciting and fascinating part of the project for me. I got to go and be part of the evaluation committee and evaluate kind of icons or people like Zaha Hadid. Another building type here was the Park and Ride. And again, the building wanted to be more than just a container for cars, but we tried to enhance the public realm by providing a retail, air-conditioned connections from the car park to the transit stations themselves. And then on the boards today is the bus rapid transit system. The bus system complements the metro in its architecture and purpose, but bus rapid transit is essentially a train on wheels. They run in dedicated corridors, so the stations are quite involved. And again, major terminal buildings and hubs that deal with the interchange between the transit modes in the city. So the King of Saudi Arabia wants all this built in 4 years. So it will be done. And for the right amount of money, anything is possible. It took us that long to build 20 kilometers of the Canada line. So to build 180 kilometers and 80 stations is going to be no small feat. But just merely building all of that rail in a short amount of time does not make the project a success. To quote the former mayor of Bogota, an advanced city is not a place where the poor move about in cars, but rather where even the rich use public transportation. And if we can use our knowledge and expertise developed here in Vancouver to help a city like Riyadh achieve the same with their transit system, then we can call that project a success. Thanks.